Today, I'm kicking off a two-part series on SEO. And we'll start here. Have you noticed some big changes lately with Google? Maybe you popped open a browser and typed in your search terms and saw some generative responses come back. And maybe those responses looked a little strange, or maybe they were spot on. Kind of depends. Also, it might be that you've opened up your Google Analytics and looked at your company's performance and saw some big, perhaps not so happy changes. Well, that's all a result of a lot of disruption and change on the side of Google. And so today, what we want to do is clue you in on everything that's been happening in the world of Google pertaining to search. And more importantly, help guide you in how to make informed decisions of what to do with your marketing strategy for the second half of the year with the information that everybody has today. Google continues to change things, so we're going to see more and more change. But what we know today is this: you need to be in more places than just focused on that traditional inbound playbook and being overly reliant on organic traffic. And we'll break down exactly what we mean and advice for what you should do during this episode. But before we get started, I also wanted to invite you to join us in February 2025 for another year of the Industrial Marketing Summit. It's coming back. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. We're so excited. And in early September, we'll be announcing speakers, topics, workshops, and sponsors. So more information is to come. But if you want to get a head start and get it marked on your calendar, or maybe even grab a seat now, you can certainly do that. You'll find more information at industrialmarketingsummit.com. All right, SEO part 1. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Erin Moore. She's an account director and all things digital marketing expert at True Marketing. And we're thrilled to have you back. So welcome, Erin.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Well, Erin, I invited you on because, wow, there's been so much talk about Google search. We've been talking about it in our leadership meetings and in our team meetings and with our clients, because Google's been in the news a lot this year. And gosh, it's not necessarily all positive. It's not just search experts that have noticed this, people like you that follow Google really closely, but also the mainstream media is jumping into this because of some of the weirdness that's happening. So it's making normal person headlines, as we like to call it. So
Yep.
Yeah,
which is really unique for something in the search ecosystem. There's memes about it. You see Instagram posts about it. It's all over the place. Some of these strange results people are getting. So it's a very interesting space for this year to be in. Yeah, it's entertaining in some ways, and it's scary in some ways.
Right. Considering Google's dominance as the search tool going back, for 20 years' time. Yes, this is kind of scary times we're living in. And a lot of companies' dependence upon organic results driving most of their traffic to their website. So definitely something we're paying attention to. We have to pay attention to for our clients, and we wanted to help the community as well. So let's start here. Okay, what are some of the things people are seeing in Google search these days, Erin?
Yeah, okay. Background on what's happening and why it's happening. Google search results have had this gigantic increase in what they call these discussion sites. So think Reddit, Quora, sometimes it's even like LinkedIn posts with comments on them. It's all of these community engagements. And a lot of this stems back to Google's EAT, that when they added that second E to make it EEAT back in 2022, that's for experience. So it's based around first person experience kind of being king. and how important it is to have first-person experience because the internet has gotten very cluttered. There's a lot of people sitting in their chairs writing about things that they don't know about. So this was kind of Google's way of combating that and showing that first-person experience. They overdid it. They trained a bunch on Reddit data for some stuff. Reddit spiked up like 900% in visibility, I think. And now anytime you search, you see a bunch of Reddit posts. So you search for best products, you're going to see stuff that is on Reddit. So I actually did a test of this. I searched best simulation software this week. There were a bunch of discussion forums. There were 7 of them. Only one of those was from the last year. So the problem with this is not only are there all these discussion forums popping up, but they're super old. One of the top results was 15 years old for best simulation software. Was a discussion post that was 15 years old. It's not relevant anymore. That is completely outdated information. Half those tools probably don't exist. So there's a lot of challenges with the discussion forums by themselves because, people can write whatever they want in Reddit. It does not mean it's factual. Great thought, Google, but execution, not so much. But then the other side of this is it's pulling stuff that is just so outdated, so old that even though there's definitely value to seeing these discussions, there's definitely value to seeing real person conversation, that information is just completely outdated.
Yikes. Okay. What about now on top of it, obviously, search generative experience, or it formerly called SGE, as we should say now. That was another thing that was rolled out. And we did an episode on that not so long ago, a couple months ago, and it was just about to roll out. What's happening with that, Erin?
Yep. So that has been rebranded AI Overviews, which is a smart move. SGE was a bit of a mouthful, but they rolled it out of beta with not a lot of warning, not a lot of notice to users. So people just started seeing these chat AI answers popping up in Google search. Mm-hmm. It does only show if you're logged in. So if you're using incognito browsers, you won't see it. But these just kind of popped up as a surprise. So this is really Google's answer to things like ChatGPT, all these AI search tools. It'll give you that automatic answer on a lot of queries, but you can actually go into a chat with it, ask questions, refine it. You can treat it like AI chat. So again, a lot of value here for asking more like natural language questions, refining your queries if you're not quite getting what you want. The challenge is the answers have been very odd sometimes. So Google used Reddit data to train. You'll see Reddit pop up in there. There's a couple other things too. These answers aren't always based on valid information. So there's a lot of, excuse my internet parlance, but like shit posts from Reddit from 13 years ago that offer clearly not real advice, like clearly not real advice that now Google is pulling in and showing like it's real. So a couple of these examples that actually break. Google says like your money or life queries are kind of sacrosanct. They're only pulling from really trusted resources. Well, if you searched how to deal with depression for a while, the answer that it gave you, one of the suggestions was to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh. And that was based on a Reddit post. That clearly was not real advice for anybody, but it was pulling in. Another one was, how do you pass kidney stones? And one of the options, again, based on Reddit, was to drink urine. Oh. So these are health queries. These are people's lives queries that were pulling in information off of Reddit that nobody ever meant to be a real answer. So it's just, and Google's correcting these, especially these really high profile ones, because again, typical users are finding these. It's not just marketers finding these and seeing the weird info. So they are addressing these. They are correcting some of these, but there's a lot out there that's just odd. It still gives you wrong information sometimes. It'll pull from sources that aren't even in Google search. So honestly, how they're finding some of these and why they're showing them in AI overviews, but not Google search results is a little bit strange. So there's just a lot of, it feels very disconnected. It feels disconnected and it feels kind of wrong. So anyway, there's a lot happening there.
Now, of course, when I think about generative search results, I can't help but think about Perplexity, and they have some lawsuits going on over there. So some of that has to do with are you just scraping other people's information and surfacing it up, or are you actually providing the source behind that? So how does Google handle that in, what is it? I keep wanting to say
AI overviews. AI overviews. They are starting to show sources a lot better, but that's where it gets, again, it's weird because the sources it pulls will be things that aren't even in the top 10, 20, 50 search results.
Wow.
Some of them, again, are like their Reddit posts, their Quora posts, they're old. Sometimes it's English language sites in different countries. They had a big problem with that, which it's supposed to be regionalized and localized. So it shouldn't be doing that. So yes, there are link attributions. But again, I don't think anyone has a really strong grasp on what the logic is sometimes for what shows up in AI overviews, why Google's pulling that information over things that it ranks highly in its search results.
Right.
It's just a
So
little weird right now.
it's almost like they were developed by siloed teams and they're
Yeah.
surfacing totally different results. Yeah? Is that fair to
Yep.
say? I
Yeah.
mean, we
There
don't
have been
know for
people who
sure.
have, yeah, no, but people have done research at scale that shows exactly that there's
Yeah.
not a lot of overlap between them, which again, it's very weird. Google usually, they're looking out for their own interests. They're trying to make money. You can always count on them to do that. But a lot of the times that aligns with improving user experience.
Okay.
And right now, that's off. That does not, these
Yeah.
changes aren't improving the user experience, which
No.
makes it really hard to predict why they're doing things or what they're going to do next.
Yeah. And of course, perhaps driving people away from their platform. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, but another one, again, just with the theme of Google in the news lately, there was quite a scuttlebutt around leaked Google algorithms. So their super secret algorithm of how Google search works was leaked. How the heck
Yep.
did that happen, Erin?
Yes. So somebody who had worked with Google, and I don't have his name in my document, but he reached out to Rand Fishkin. Rand founded Moz back in the 2000s, like early 2000s, and now runs a company called SparkToro. He's actually totally out of SEO. He's doing this, audience research. But this person reached out to him with these documents. Rand still knows a lot of people, past Googlers, people who are really plugged in. So he kind of did this due diligence of fact checking, seeing if like these documents, because they're API documents, so they're written as code, did they align with what Google typically uses on their side for API, for labeling, for all of that? And came out that they're legit. And so what these show is a section of Google's code for what is ranking. It's interesting because a lot of this Google is like, it's their secret sauce. So there's a lot of things that people have had very strong hypotheses are ranking signals, but Google has never confirmed. And so what these document leaks did is it showed not all the factors, and it doesn't show you necessarily what is and is not like the strongest signal, but it gives a lot more data around what does actually matter when it comes to rankings, what Google is looking at by seeing what is explicitly typed out in their API docs.
Okay, so earlier you talked about EEAT and the customer experience when they go on to Google, but how a lot of the changes are sort of in conflict with what is Google saying their, their goals are. So based on this leak, what did it uncover, and what kind of surprises did we find?
A lot of it was not terribly surprising. Again, people have had these hypotheses. So I'll go through a couple of the key things that they found. Clicks, click-through rates, the length of page visits. Google has never confirmed that these are ranking signals, but it's always been pretty clear the more popular pages, the more often people click through it. Usually it doesn't lose its rankings. So this does confirm that these are actually ranking signals. Again, it doesn't say how critical they are, but it's either used as like a ranking signal, and it's also used to correct sometimes results. So as people go through search results, their user behavior actually changes what ranks. There were some good examples of this with like localized information. So doing a search, if you're in the Seattle area and going through multiple pages of results to find, like, let's say it's a business name. Google will actually get better over time to say, oh, people in Seattle, this is a business name in Seattle, so let's show this higher up in the results versus showing this national search where it's not as relevant to other people. So it's very contextualized. A couple of the other things that popped out that I think were a little surprising. So Google has been spouting off about EEAT and how critical it is and how authority is like the number one signal. It seems to be a little bit, it's not the be all end all. You could have the most authoritative content, and I think we see this a lot. You could have the most authoritative content. It's not going to save everything. Like you still need to have a good brand, an authoritative site. You could write the best content in the world, but EEAT is not that be all end all that Google has kind of been saying it is. There's stuff that we all used to spend a lot of time on, like on-page SEO and the technical backend. That doesn't seem to matter very much anymore. So exact text matching keywords, optimizing your anchor links seems to be less important. And we've actually seen some people do research on this of sites that were more optimized losing rankings.
Oh, wow.
So,
Almost that they were
right. So
being punished
they're being
for
penalized for it a little bit.
over
Yeah. And
architecting.
yeah, and that's not in this document, but it does seem like these things are less important than we previously thought.
Uh-huh.
Optimized page titles, I guess, were the only exception they called out. Having that
Right.
optimized page title does seem to actually matter. But the most, I think, surprising thing for some people, not for everyone, is that SEO has changed very significantly. And it's really a big brand game. And so if you are a smaller brand, if you are a newer brand, SEO is going to be a hard uphill battle. And it's not write good content and Google will find it and they will come. This is not going to have great ROI for a long time for you. Invest in other channels. Don't forget about SEO, but you need to adjust your expectations on ROI because the game is different. And it's, back in 2017, you could write great content and there wasn't great content out there and you could rank, and that's not the case anymore. You really need to have a strong, authoritative brand backing you. This website, this search ecosystem is built for big brands now. So I think that's the big surprise. I know. It's a different world, which is definitely unfortunate, but
yeah. Okay. So authoritative brand. So still there's a great goal for smaller companies to build an authoritative brand. And there's certainly a strategy to do that. But as we'll get to, and I know we'll be talking strategy in a bit, it's a omni-channel strategy, not just a on-page
exactly
strategy.
right. Which before it's inbound marketing, write content, optimize it for search, and then it was kind of almost an afterthought for some companies to then spread it out, disseminate it to their audience. It can't be an afterthought anymore. You have to really build audiences in the channels that you're in and build that funnel for your content to reach the people you need to reach. You can't just rely on search.
Yeah, big fundamental change.
Yeah.
Going back real fast to the on-page technical SEO things, something you said in our team meeting really stuck with me. You said, as Google incorporates AI and, you have machine learning, you don't need to tell the algorithm or, that those were really technical instructions, right? For for Google when they were crawling your site. And so that stuck with me that, okay, we no longer need to give all these technical details because the machine learning tool knows what to look for. It knows how to do that. It knows to extrapolate. And so that just, I don't know, that made it click with me.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, why should you have to spell this out? Now, there were some exceptions. I know it's still recommended when you've got like products to give certain types of structured product data. But a lot of this is kind of common sense. Like the tool has gotten very smart. It's got immense amounts of data to train itself on.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff like metadata, keywords, optimizing, schema, just all of this, it's really unlikely to be what makes your page rank or not rank. So like, don't throw it away. Don't go in and strip all that info out. But I also wouldn't spend a lot of time or resources adding it if it's not there. That could be more of a checkbox. It's not going to hurt you unless, of course, you're really, really optimizing and there's some signals that Google is deprioritizing over optimized sites, but it's typically not going to hurt you, but it's also not going to be, if you're losing site rankings, what fixes it.
Okay.
There isn't a fix. It's just this system has changed.
Got you. Okay. What about referral links from other sites to your site? Is that still an important factor in ranking?
Yeah, this was really interesting in that algorithm leak. I'll try not to get too technical in it, but basically there's a thought that referral links aren't all created equal. This thought's been around for a while, but it actually kind of backs this up with the idea that the link isn't what matters, it's where it's linking from. So thinking about if you have somebody, like we do a research report every year, if somebody links to our research report from their own research that is really popular, gets a lot of visitors, that link is passing a lot of link equity to us. If somebody links to it from a resources page that 3 people go to a month, that link doesn't pass any equity to us because that link has no authority. So it's kind of tying in this like page authority and factoring that into, does a referral link pass on any SEO benefits? The page has to be really authoritative to pass it on. So I think a lot of SEOs way back in the day everyone was into link building. It's build, 10 links a week, build 100 links a week.
Yeah.
The number doesn't matter. It's where those links are coming from that matters. So there's a little bit of a reformatting around that. Now, referral links are still worth a lot. It's more nuanced. But I would say too, the other side of this is don't forget that referral links aren't just for Google, like they're for people. So if it's worth it to ask for a link or get a link from a partner program or anything like that, don't just think about the SEO benefits. Think about the opportunity to reach new audiences. And that's why I get really excited about referral links. It's always been seeing the audiences, the traffic come from these sites. SEO, I think, is the cherry on top if you can get some link benefits, but think about your audience first.
What a good reminder, Erin. Thank you for bringing us back to the actual user that we're trying to get to purchase our product or solutions. One more thing on referral links. What about the pay to play sites that are still relevant, industry specific? These are pretty common in technical industries. Do those have authority? Are they punished because you have to pay? Some have sort of a you pay or you don't model. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're not supposed to pay for links. So Google's stance on this has always been if it's paid for in any way, it needs to be a no follow link, which tells the crawler to not pass any equity. So that's kind of the safe way to do it. I say never, who knows what Google's going to do, but you should never be penalized for no follow links. If a site for some reason is eyeballed by Google as doing something funky and they've got a bunch of follow links, there is the chance that will reflect negatively on your site. Now, I haven't seen it happen in a long time. This was a big issue back in like 2015 to 2018, I would say, because a lot of people were buying these links. It was more of a black hat tactic. So I don't know, again, what that repercussion would be. I think it's still worth it to be in these directory sites. Again, if your audience is there, it's worth it to be there. It's up to you if you pay. If you don't pay to be in there, if it's a fit. I would say to be safe, if you're paying for a link, it should be no follow to be on Google's good side. I'm sure there's still people who operate the old way where links can be bought and they want follow links. I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah.
Just because it is not even technically, it is against Google policy.
I see. And so and you could experiment with it, right? You could measure that, and that's something that you can monitor too. Okay, well, let's zoom back out again. So I'm gonna put on my hat of I'm a marketer who has historically been dependent on organic traffic. I've been following that inbound marketing playbook of 5 years ago. What should I do now?
It's not 5 years ago. Everybody should start with an audit. Like audit what's working, audit what's not working. Don't look at search as we made a mistake and we can fix it and this will come back. I think that's the biggest thing that I am seeing. Don't count on your organic search coming back. I hate to say it. That sucks for a lot of people. This isn't a mistake. Search has changed fundamentally. Some of this will change. Google's always flexing, but it's not necessarily something that can be corrected. So I think the biggest thing that we have been telling people is to diversify. All of your eggs cannot be in the search basket. Think about reaching your audience where they're at. So a lot of this is finding your audience where they are, writing content geared to them on the platform they're on in the format they like. So it's going to be more work. It's not just writing blog posts. It's definitely not writing introductory content. It's writing things that are technical, that are really, really geared to your audience. And if they like video, it's making video. And if they like graphics, it's making graphics. So a couple of the things that we're seeing people do a lot more is diversifying off organic search, not putting all their eggs in that basket, and thinking about YouTube as a search channel. YouTube is the second biggest search platform in the world. A lot of people start searches there. They find information, especially like how-tos, product demos, things that do well, not just visually, but in a medium like video. So YouTube is a fantastic channel for still getting that search traffic. You just need video content instead of blog content. We're seeing a lot of people look at events and trade shows as a way to reach new audiences or to reach their audience. This is not new, but I think a lot of people have doubled down on events, and a lot of events have made it easier to get leads, to connect. There's happy hours, there's like round tables. Lean into those. We're seeing a lot of people thinking about thought leadership. Thought leadership can certainly include search, but it's also things like speaking at these industry events. It's creating really authoritative content on your LinkedIn, becoming that person who is speaking authoritatively about a topic, doing contributed content to industry publications, all of that. A couple others, don't forget about referrals, don't forget about your partnerships. Think about digital advertising. Does that make sense for your audience? What about industry advertising? And last but certainly not least, public relations. Working with publications to feature your content, to get on their radar, to do contributed content, because these are all ways that you can reach your audience with a very targeted message where they are that does not rely on them searching something into Google and finding you.
Yeah. And many of those technical publications now have companion podcasts. And we saw from the research that over 70% of technical buyers are listening to podcasts weekly. And of course, if you're listening to this, you're a podcast listener, so you get it. And I think that that's an often overlooked component. So whether it's through a technical publication or an industry influencer, I know it's a big list. I mean, wow. Whew.
I know. Well, and then on top of that too, like that's diversifying to reach your audience.
Yeah.
Once you've reached your audience, what are you saying? So strategy is still like strategy leads everything. Audit what's working, see what's working, strategize, have a plan based on that. Your brand matters so much more now because if people can't find what they're looking for through Google, they're going to go to other channels. And one of those could be your site. Like thinking about my own behavior as a consumer, I've had a couple searches lately where I've just skipped Google and gone straight to either Amazon, gone straight to a site that I knew had a lot of products in the reign of what I was looking for because I'm not getting the results I need from Google. My behavior has changed. Usually we see B2C changes happen before B2B. I would imagine this is already happening where people are going directly to trusted sites instead of searching through Google sometimes. So your brand is really key to get people aware of you and then also have that really consistent foot in the door. Anytime they see you, you're telling them the same things. You're presenting yourself as the same company. There's no confusion if they're on your LinkedIn versus your YouTube versus a contributed article, who the heck you are. So all of that is really critical.
Yeah, when I think about going directly to, like you said, your Amazon example or whatever, that leads me to think about distributor sites, technical organizations where you can find, a host of solution providers, large manufacturers that have a robust partnership arm. So all of those places are good places to put your brand, to expand, your footprint and make sure that you're there where the user wants to search.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's been one of the biggest shifts is search is not just Google, search is everywhere. People are searching in TikTok. I don't think any of us should really be in TikTok, but it just goes to show, especially as search gets more fragmented, people are using a lot of different channels as search channels. So think about it that way. Think about where your audience is and how they can find you there versus trying to drive them, to your website just from Google, because not everyone's using Google and they're not all using it the same way.
Very good. Erin, how should a marketer think about their content strategy differently, if at all, in light of these changes?
So if you can't rely on how-to articles, writing these really broad topics and finding people in Google, think about what your audience needs. Write to your audience. Write, like I said, in the format they want, or create in the format that they want for the channel they're on. So this is more work. This is creating posts. Like, don't use LinkedIn as here's my blog link, go find it. Create a really engaging post that plays to what does well on LinkedIn. If you're working with, a referral link, a contributed article, write in the format that fits that publication, that fits also what your audience is looking for from that. It is more work. It's customizing everything. But I will say, if you're thinking about writing 10 overview blog posts, use that time to write 2 really deep, like case studies, guides that are really, really specific to what your audience needs that only you can write about. Because I think the other side of this is all of those intro level topics, AI can summarize. They've got so much content already for that. That's not something anyone should be doing at this point in time because it's not going to return anything to you. You're probably not going to rank. And even if you do, again, that's something that these AI summaries are just going to synopsize and people, it's not deep enough for them to even need to click through and learn more from you.
Yeah,
So
they
focus
don't
on
need
deep
to know
technical
the
content.
source, right? They
They
trust
don't
the
need to know the source.
aggregation
Yeah.
to those introductory
Like,
topics. That makes sense.
think about definitions. Like, you don't need to click through a lot of stuff that Google is feeding you. Google
Yeah.
is trying to keep you in Google. So the more that they can package up themselves, the more they're going to. So think about things that Google can't package and that an AI chat tool can't package. So it's deep technical content, stuff based on real world projects that you've done. It's data. It's it's the stuff that's more time consuming, that's harder to create, but it's also the stuff that has so much value to your audience. That's what you should be spending your time on.
Okay. Good advice. All right. One more question, Erin. What moves do you expect Google to make next? What's on the horizon?
Who knows? I don't even know if Google knows. So what I will say is I have a couple recommendations that can help with this.
Yeah.
Follow people who talk about SEO. There are a couple people like Lily Ray, who's been on our podcast, who posts updates constantly. She runs research. Cyrus Shepard is another one who does a lot of these like smaller research studies. That's where I've been finding the most value, because Google has never been very forthcoming. They especially aren't right now, but it's people who are running these larger scale tests where you can actually start to see, again, it's like hypothesizing. They're basically scientists. You have a hypothesis, you run a test to test it, you see what the results are, and you can actually use that data to make some of your decisions. That's where I'm finding the most value right now, is the people who are doing these larger scale tests, because otherwise it's a bunch of, I saw this on my site, so I think this is happening. And that's not significant, data wise. So follow people who are talking about this and running these tests, and just be flexible, because everything is changing. Who knows what Google's going to do next? Who knows what they're going to see as a ranking signal? Search seems to be a bit broken right now. It won't be that way forever, but I don't know what that next iteration looks like. And nobody does. So be flexible and plan to adjust your plans.
Yeah. And if someone's approaching you and saying they do know what's coming, that's not, they're not a credible.
They don't know. No, they don't know. Nobody knows what's coming. Yeah.
I would also recommend that marketers educate their leadership about this so that they're not blindsided if your results have changed drastically. They don't think that it's reflective on something you're doing wrong, because it isn't. It's like you said, search has fundamentally changed. And so be sure to educate on that. Pass this episode along if you need to, whatever it is, but it's important to set expectations here.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Well, Erin, where can people go to connect with you and learn more?
Yep. You can always go to True Marketing's site, truemarketing.com. I'm on there. We've got a lot of additional educational information on this topic. You can dig into marketing strategy topics. So that's an easy place. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Erin Gleason Moore. And we'll stick some resources in the podcast notes if we can, Wendy. There's some really good articles about the algorithm leak, things like that go into it in so much more depth than I could cover. I have found those really helpful. So we'll put a couple of the top ones in there.
Sounds good. We'll do it. All right. Thank you much, Erin.
All right. Thanks so much, Wendy.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our e-newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.